Hello, friend, and welcome to 10 Bestest, where we sift through the noise so you don't have to. I'm Karen McFarland-Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Today, I'm going to answer the question, what's xanthan gum?
And today, I'm going to share a video featuring moths in slow motion. Let's get to it.
My first cool sheet, I'm going to be talking about kitchen science. And this is actually something that Brian asked me some questions about, and I thought, hey, I'm going to make it a cool sheet. And it is xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is formed through the natural fermentation of the bacterium called Xanthomonas campestris. What is that? It is the black stuff that grows on your broccoli if you leave it in the fridge too long. Does that sound gross? Well, a lot of what we eat comes from things that are created by the fermentation of various bacteria, like kimchi, sourdough bread. So it's all good. Xanthan gum is used often because it has such useful properties in the kitchen. And one of those properties is thickening in a very delightful way. Whereas cornstarch that's used for thickening, cornstarch can get all lumpy, but xanthan gum is known for its creamy texture. One common food that it's used for is in ice cream for that creaminess. You also see it on ingredients lists in lotions and toothpaste for the same reason. It is amazing how little you need to get the effect that you want. A common percentage by weight that is used is 0.1%. We are talking like 1/16 of a teaspoon would be a common amount that's used in recipes. But they always say don't go above 0.3% or it gets what they call snotty. Below that though, it is awesome. It's also helpful because it's flavorless, so you don't need to worry about affecting the flavor of your dish. So what can you use it for? As I said, you can use it for ice cream, but you could also do something like making a latte with xanthan gum instead of milk. It makes the texture the same as a latte, but it doesn't taste at all like milk. So you get the thickness, creaminess of a latte, but if you want the straight coffee flavor, xanthan gum is the ticket. Because of its molecular structure, it's also good at trapping air bubbles, and it's used a lot in making what's known as culinary foam. I want to talk really quickly about the molecular structure. Imagine those old school telephone cords. It's like a corkscrew. It's kind of like that with a bunch of sugar molecules. I could talk forever about the molecular structure, but I need to stop now. Xanthan gum.
Ah, this is so cool. So this is kind of a 10 Bestest first where I suggested
yes,
that you do it.
Exactly.
So like I get the assisted, you slam dunked it home.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was going to talk about it, but I was like, you know what? I want you and your science to explain it better than I could.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny, I babbled on about a lot of the other stuff before getting to the science.
Didn't even get too much.
But, so I'll just say now, cheat a little bit and expand.
Good.
So this coil, this helix structure that it has, that it's actually pretty in a nice structure, but if you heat it up, then it turns into, you know when you use the phone over and over and then that coils on itself and it's a mess? That's actually really good. Xanthan gum does that too, and that helps with the creaminess of the ice cream. So ice cream, it gets all chunky if those crystals of water are large, but if they're tiny little crystals, that is the secret of having creamy ice cream. And when you have this big, bulky, messy helix that's all messed up in the way, then those big crystals can't form. It forms little crystals and you get the creaminess.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I have so many questions on this then, because now when you make homemade ice cream, it is way creamier than most store-bought. And I've never used xanthan gum from homemade ice cream, but it's fresh and it just happened. You just mixed it, you just froze it, and it doesn't last too long.
Yes.
And so is xanthan gum any kind of preserved parts of that or not? Or is that other ingredients that they add to it? That's just kind of the creaminess.
Yeah, so the xanthan gum helps with that creaminess and helps with those ice crystals. And so this is the thing, and you hit it right there with making it fresh, then that means that you've allowed those ice crystals, those tiny little ice crystals to form, making it really creamy. When you have ice cream that's been made at some factory and then it's put into a truck and then it's shipped and it's going through time and it's going through actually a few processes where maybe it's taken out of the freezer for a moment and then put somewhere else.
Again.
So it slightly thaws ever so slightly and refreezes. And every time it does that, the crystals get larger.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
So,
that's good to know.
Yeah, so that creaminess fresh ice cream is the way to go every
Nice.
time.
So now my biggest question is, because I think that just that word, it's so foreign, but it's safe. Is it?
Yes.
It's totally safe.
Exactly.
Okay. Because that's, I think, what freaks people out a lot of times. And that's why I wanted you to talk about it. You know, all these words we can barely say.
Yes.
Is like, that sounds like an alien substance or a chemical, you know, like man-made chemical or, you know, a process, something.
Yeah.
But it is nice to know that this comes from basically a food source, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It is the same. It's that same fermentation. It's just fermentation. And because it comes from the bacterium that was already named, and so they just took the name Xanthan directly from that.
Okay.
And this term gum is from what it does, that it does this thickening.
Okay.
And there are other gums that are similar, guar gum, and there are others that they just use that term. For me, it's not the best term. But speaking of gum, that is how you can find our show notes. So for this episode, 10bestest.com/gum will lead you to everything we talk about this week.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Yeah, you're
way
welcome.
better than I could explain it.
Oh, and there's so much more. We'll have a link. But yeah, there's always so much more to say.
Oh, yeah.
about all of our cool sheets, and that's why we provide the show notes for you.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure, and thank you for suggesting Xanthan gum.
Absolutely. I might have some more for you
I can't wait
to
yes,
check out.
Please do.
All right. So my cool sheet is going to be a video, and this video is called 7 Spectacular Moths in Slow Motion. This is by Ant Lab on their YouTube channel, and it involves a couple of my favorite things, science and slow motion video. I love both of those a lot, but one thing that maybe I'm not so crazy about, and that's moths. Usually, you know, you find them in your clothes, eating your things, or just flying around and being a nuisance, of course, attracted to the light. But this video instantly changed my mind. So, Dr. Adrian Smith starts the video by saying, I think all of science boils down to trying to do things in order to see and appreciate the world in a new way. I love that so much. I'm going to say it again, and because it's kind of my mantra of life. I think all of life boils down to trying to do things in order to see and appreciate the world in a new way. I love that so much. Now, as he's doing this and narrating this, there's this beautiful pink and yellow rosy maple moth starting to take flight, filmed at 6,000 frames per second. And at these slow speeds, these delightful little friends look like pudgy little teddy bears with wings trying to get off the ground. And the variety of color and markings and even the size of the moths and how they differ is so interesting. I never thought I would like this so much. But slowing them down really makes you appreciate the differences of them and how they're designed for flight, every little part of their body as they take off. And for me, they take on this personality that I never knew before, because you're seeing them in slow-mo, you're looking at their eyes, and you're just seeing that kind of struggle to get off, and they look like their whole body looks like it kind of is excited when it starts to take off. It's so good. There's so many, like I said, there's 7 different kinds. They're all really interesting. Definitely check it out. 7 Spectacular Moths in Slow Motion.
Ooh, I will love this so much
You
because
will
I
like
like
it for
moths.
sure.
They're pudgy. Yeah, they're
a little
plump
pudgy,
and they're like,
so fuzzy and
yes,
cute.
that
You know, when you
fuzziness, I
think
love
of
it.
the moths that you kind of see, the most common ones, of course, they're kind of those dark, you know, brownish, you know, ones, and they have like that film on them a lot of the time.
Yeah, that it's like dusty or something.
Yeah, and they do have some that are like that, but when it's in slow motion, then that dust like flies off. Even that's magnificent looking, of course. So it's really, really cool. I love it so much, but they're so cute when they're up close and in slow-mo. They're just like the cutest little things ever. I want to like pet them and have them as my little friends.
Which you have the second best thing, and that is this video of them in slow-mo.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I want to check that out after the show.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll send
thank
you the
for
link
that.
directly for it. But yeah.
Excellent, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us, friend. I'm Karen McFarlane-Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Tell us, what did you learn today about xanthan gum that you didn't know before?
And let us know in the comments, where were you feeling when you think about moths?
If you're enjoying the show, please give us a like and share it with a friend.
Stay tuned tomorrow for another great show.
And don't forget to stay curious.